All right, I'm calling this special meeting of the Newington Board of Education to order. It is Wednesday, April 26, 2023. The time now is 7:00 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. And I'm going to ask the clerk to please call our roll.
Michael Branda.
Here.
Danielle Rose. Here. Dr. Bruce Hunter.
Here.
Beth Wagner.
Here.
Richard Berry.
Here.
Amy Parati.
Here.
Sam Sharma. Jessica Weaver.
Here.
Anastasia Yap. I have Mr. Sharma and Ms. Yap absent.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to agenda item B, which is public participation on any matter related to board responsibilities. If you are here in person and wish to speak, please come to the head of the table. If you want to call in, the phone number is 860-665-8659. Or you can raise your hand online if you are in the Google Meet, and I will call on you. We do limit civil participation to 3 minutes. All we ask is that you state your name and your address. So we'll wait a few moments to see if we have any participants. All right, I don't see anybody online and there are no phone calls coming in, so I'm going to move us on now to agenda item C, which is our new business. And we have 5 items on new business tonight. Number 1 is going to be discussion and possible action on revisions to the school calendar for 2023-2024. Dr. Brummett.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fletcher. As I think most board members know, there's a committee in the district called Teacher Council, which has been a longstanding committee, and they bring issues to me frequently that, are either not able to be resolved at the building level or kind of a district-wide issue. And one of the things that often gets discussed is the school calendar. So as a direct result of that committee discussion, I recently sent out a survey to all staff asking them, and this is, again, issues surfaced by the committee, whether they would rather start the school year a little later than what is currently on the projected or approved board calendar online. So there were several questions asked. One was the start date. One was also, how that would impact the first day of school. There was also discussion about February vacation being a little longer, as some districts have. Currently, we just have essentially a long weekend. And then they would also, if we did add to the long weekend in February, it would back up a professional development day in February by 1 day. Another issue that came up during the survey that has required further follow-up was a recommendation by some elementary teachers to have meet and greet parent conferences in September. That was a practice that had been around years earlier. Then it kind of dissipated. And several elementary folks surfaced it. So we did several surveys because they just didn't come out with any conclusive evidence. So now Wendy just shared with me before the kickoff of the meeting tonight that the most recent round shows more of a 60-40 split not to do the conferences. So that's one issue that I think is kind of resolved. Doesn't preclude a teacher from meeting with a parent at their request, but it wouldn't be a formal half-day conference evening. So these are the changes based on survey results, and they were pretty compelling. It was certainly more than a 60-40 split. Just so the board may recall, we've done the survey before, and in previous years, they did not recommend the later start date, but this year they did. So based on that, based on the survey results, here's how that would change our calendar. You now see that our first day of school for teachers is the 28th. First day of school for the children is the 30th. And then they're only in school for 2 days, and then they have a long weekend for Labor Day. The other change, fast forwarding along to February, is previously February 16th was a PD day. Now we've backed that up to February 15th and made the 16th a vacation day for kids and teachers. That was the other change. And then last but not least, we would now have our last day of school be the 12th, which is actually where it lands this year. Important to note that the holiday, some of our newly adopted religious holidays, Eid al-Fitr and Three Kings, both fall on weekends next year, so they do not impact the calendar next year. Oh, Rosh Hashanah does too. Wow, no wonder we've got all these extra days in the calendar. So even with starting late, adding a vacation day in February, barring, of course, any snow days, which this year we only had one, we would still get out pretty much the same as we did this year. So that is the recommendation based on surveys. It was in your packet as well. Everything else is status quo. We had already moved our second professional development day away from Election Day, and that landed this year in February. That is a bit of a change. Last year we had it on Three Kings Day, and well, this year Three Kings Day is not a school holiday, and then also we found that we might need it a little later just for planning purposes, so that's how we landed on February. So I will be happy to answer any questions, Dr. Fletcher.
All right, we'll begin over here. Michael Brandon.
For me, just overall on the calendar, it makes very little difference to me when we start, when we finish. And I know that we did survey. I feel like we surveyed the first time and it was like more of a 50-50 split. So maybe now that people have seen it and they're kind of, and Danielle has spoken to all of them, they've all kind of just seen, okay, we would like to kind of stretch this out. But this will probably be my 5th or 6th year saying this. I still don't understand why we do the 181 days. And especially when I know we're going to have a discussion on the next topic. And I feel like in years past, we always kind of just ditch that 181st day. And yeah, it doesn't make a huge difference, but I just feel like if we're making changes to the calendar and we only have to do 180 days, and every year we seem to use that 181st for something other than what it was originally intended for, maybe we should just do 180 days.
Do you want to respond?
You bring up a good point, and it will come up in the next discussion about, now I'm not aware of, I know last year I requested that change because of the impact of COVID and wanting to give teachers a celebration day. It is a similar request this year, so I don't know whether that's been done previously. I don't know whether that's ever been done previously. Looks like Wendy and Steve are telling me no, and they've got the longevity.
So, I mean, I'm going to count the COVID year just because it helps my argument. But I just think overall, like 181, like whenever I ask why do we do it, there's never been, I would say, a compelling reason to have that extra day. But I'm going to yield to Danielle because she's really eager to talk about the calendar.
Danielle?
I appreciate it, and I understand everything you're saying, and so I'm sorry, I'm so asleep. So the 181 days is a contractual obligation. The teachers have to work a certain amount of days. And I know that there are public people who say that I should keep my personal things out of this, but I do happen to know a lot of teachers, and they would rather be with students than if we went down to the 180, then there'd be another day of PD because the teachers aren't going to take a 1-day hit on their salary. So I just feel like, and I also like, I know your kids aren't in high school yet, but you're going to learn like when they get to high school, there's a lot of other days that they miss. Like, so like PSAT day, some of the kids aren't there. SAT day, some of the kids aren't there. So the high schoolers, and this was my like thing last year too, was it's not really 180 days that they're getting really anyway in the high school. And I know my son would not be happy if I said like they should go to school more. So I just feel like as a teacher, I'd rather be with students than sitting in professional development, although I'm sure it's very, very awesome and wonderful. Teachers, I think if you did a survey, would rather be with kids than with So we have to do, like, they have to work the day. So I just think teachers would prefer, and I did reach out to some Newington teachers to ask if it was just a me thing or it was a teacher thing across the board. And it was pretty much unanimous that they would rather be with the students. So that's why I think we should keep the 181.
Weaver?
Yeah, I guess it just like, can we clarify just a little bit? Because I know everyone goes, well, how did someone come up with this? Like, did they use a formula? Like, we always try to be transparent, especially last year when we were making more significant changes, or the year before. We were trying to like figure out, well, how is this determined? Because we were like, some holidays would hop on, then hop off, and it was just arbitrary. And I feel like going forward to like, as we establish this quote unquote process, we're doing surveys. So I guess, and especially when it is a 50-50 or a 60-40 split, like we're not going to make much of the majority happy or too much of it. So it looks like it's like, I mean, I'm glad these are the most controversial things happening at this time, but I guess I want to make sure one, teacher input is, you know, kind of the first thing we go through. And in terms of, I think it's more maybe the second item that y'all are talking about, not this one particularly, but kind of what the surveys say, and like how many times we ask, when we ask it. My biggest question is to like, from a non-teacher, like just public perspective, like setting the kids 2 days the first week, is that like weird? It's not weird. Okay. I just want to, okay. You know, I thought, you know, I always thought 3 days was the norm. Everyone does it differently. So I just want to make sure we're not just putting all of these random things in. The public just goes, what the heck? Why are you doing this? Why are we doing this? And maybe just getting a clear sense of the determination process and how that came to be. So like what survey said what would be just be helpful.
The survey that I used for this outcome did not ask about the 181st day. It did ask about everything else, and those were comments generated at a teacher council meeting. I don't know if Steve or Wendy could comment about why Newington does 181 versus 180.
I can, so thank you for asking. A number of years ago, when we chose to implement early release Tuesdays as an opportunity for professional learning for teachers, we realized that that cut into instructional time for students. So we continued with the 181 days, that extra day, to continue with instructional time, so that way it wasn't as big of an impact. So we always try to look at what the state recommendations are for instructional time in each area, your core areas, and also I think wellness and a few others that you have to have a certain amount of minutes per year per grade. So we did use formulas at the time when we created the calendar to make sure that we were in compliance with that. And we looked at surrounding districts as well to ensure that not only were we meeting the state requirements, but we were matched up and or higher with instructional time in those areas than our surrounding district towns. I know we are in pretty good shape. Even if we were to potentially reduce to 180, I think we'd still be in very good shape. We can always relook at that though.
Other thought question, but I don't know if we're done with that discussion. 181 versus 180 day.
Yeah, is your question related to that?
Yeah, I have a question on that 180 versus 81. For the proposal, what's the likelihood that next year we might want to have a day at the end of the school year? Like our next topic, I know we're not there yet, but if there's a likelihood that we want to do that again, would it make sense to move a PL day to that last day of school, or the day after the last day of school, depending on snow days, and take it away from earlier in the year, or at it? I'm not sure exactly how it works out, but I also want to ask about because I had asked this last year too, about the instructional time, and Mr. Farisi, you kind of said the same answer. Will it impact instructional time or not to have the 180 versus 81 days? So I guess, is it like, how do you know? Or is it as we get through the school year, you can tell, or, you know, things, how do you feel comfortable now about it, I guess?
My comfort level varies for a number of reasons. And with that per se, I can't tell you. I still think, you know, I'd have to I don't want to be quoted falsely on looking at the actual numbers and doing the numbers again to make a determination if we still fare well compared to the state recommendations. So, but I would say is it's, 6.5 hours less than what we do this year. And, I think we'd still be fine, like meeting the amount of minutes per core area. We gave ourselves a lot of room in that. So even the early release Tuesdays did not reduce us nearly anywhere close to where some of the districts who came in lower than us without early release Tuesdays with instructional time. And we've lessened the amount of early release Tuesdays over the years. I think we used to be at 16 and I think we're down to 14 now. So that right there almost makes up the difference, right? If you were to reduce one day off your year. So I have to look at this calendar. I didn't count the early release days in this one being proposed. Is it 15? It's right in the middle. So you're like a half a day now you're taking away at the end. So, we'd have to just look at those calculations, but. A brilliant quote for a great opportunity.
I was just gonna say for this motion,
What's that?
for this motion, I guess, I don't think it's like impacted, right?
I got one more.
Okay.
Richard online. Go ahead, Richard.
Yes, I just think that it should stay 181. Newington's always done it with 181. And I mean, if we have the students there one less day with the teachers, I mean, I don't see how it is even conceivable that it wouldn't affect classroom time with the teachers. So I'm in favor of keeping it 181.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they always say when you work in government, the worst answer is, well, just cause, why do we do it? Well, because we've always done it that way. So I don't want it to be, that's the reason why. Like I said, we want it to be like formulaic or something. But I think I noticed that our last year's calendar was amended in July. So I think like per this motion or per what we're talking about, I think we can, I'm in favor of what those changes are right now. And then maybe we could revisit it with more data, if that makes sense, like teacher input, just because the 181 is not a part of that motion. And then
It is not. It's not.
Yeah.
This calendar reflects 181
Right. So I know
days.
we're not changing that specific part of it. I didn't know if that wanted to be added or not. I just wasn't sure what we wanted to do with that, like what makes most sense. That's all.
Go ahead, Beth.
So can I make the motion? Okay.
Go ahead.
I just have a question about the February PD vacation, holiday vacation. And it can always be amended. I love the beginning of the year changing because we all know that was like my baby a couple of years ago. But I don't know how Newington's demographics are. Should the PD be Friday and the vacation day be the 21st? Or are you going to have families who are like, oh, I'm just going to take the rest of the week off? And I don't know what the demographics, like what that absentee looks like in Newington. I would suspect there are some districts that when you have this kind of a layout, the parents are going to just be like, oh, I'm just going to take the rest of the week off anyway. So would it make more sense to put the PD on the 16th and the vacation day on the 21st?
This survey came up with that. Well, the teacher council discussion came up with this suggestion. I really couldn't answer that question, whether we would see an influx of more people taking a vacation. I think some people do it already, not teachers, but I think it is quite possible that no matter how we configure it, parents may say, hey, I'm going to take the whole week off with my student.
Amy.
Just from my own personal opinion on that, I think that having long weekends, a Friday off or even a Thursday off is kind of like a cool thing. Like I think I made the suggestion, I don't remember what year it was, probably whatever, some year to like move. I think I actually made that suggestion to move the PD day to the February break originally, that Friday, I think it was. Because having a Friday off, like at least for me, my job, Friday is less crazy and it's really nice to be able to take that long weekend. So I think that's the original intent, was to have like a, Friday long weekend. I love this, that it's a Thursday, Friday, because then it's, an extra.
It's a Thursday, Friday,
An
Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, I love that too, but that's just my opinion. I like how it is. I would approve this calendar as it was in the.
Yes.
Just like my inkling, I'm looking on it, I would say like the where to go?
Which,
Roll up a little bit, please. Sorry. Like if you put it on the vacation day on the 21st, I'm looking at like, that would give me more incentive to take the whole week off. Because I'm just looking at like the math. Like I'm looking at 2 days off and 2 days off, 3 days in office, right? If you go 3 days off, well, those 2 days in office aren't looking as good, especially when they're a Thursday and a Friday. So like you put the vacation, holiday vacation, less incentive to come Thursday, Friday. But if you put just 2 vacation days, well, Wednesday's the big day, right? So to me, I'm like, that would give me more incentive to want to just scrap that week. We got 3 days off. Bye. Not saying that.
Go ahead, Danielle.
I want to preface this. I have absolutely no skin in the game because as of June 12th this year, I will not have any children in Newington Public Schools. I'm just like throwing it out there that I've got my teacher hat on, a 3-day week and a 3-day week, like a 4-day week, like, okay, it's 4 days. I don't know. I just like where then 2 3-day weeks. Like, I feel like I'm just looking at a teacher, like that week before with the PD at the end, like my head's still in the game. If you did a 3-day week and a 3-day week, I don't know, like, I don't know instructionally if that's the best thing, but I honestly do not, you guys have kids in the school. I don't care. Of course, I'm going to vote this as a yes. I do not care. I'm just throwing that out there as an idea that might make families happier to have that vacation day on the 21st.
So let me just circle back. This is done by a survey, correct?
Yes, the survey went out to all staff several weeks ago, and this is the outcomes of the survey impacted what you see in front of you on the calendar.
Okay.
And this year we had the Friday as the PD, and then we had the 2 days, we did the holiday.
no, we didn't have 3 though.
Yeah, we did. We had PD on Friday. Am I wrong?
We had the PD day in January, the Sharon Three Kings Day. I don't think we had a February PD.
It's a PD holiday. It's 3 days in total off.
Right, but started that Friday, so we didn't do the Thursday, so I guess.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So the survey was based on after experiencing what we just did this past February. So I guess if the survey is saying this is what they prefer, in my mind, it's based on their present day experience of the past February break. So that's why I'm kind of like, if that's what they want. I see Deb holding up the calendar. Am I supposed to look at that? I don't know. I don't know if that's a sign.
Yes, excuse me. It appears that this February the 17th was an actual school day, and the 2 days off were the Monday, Tuesday. So again, I really do think some of these suggestions are motivated by there was no snow days this year, or one. And I really think that impacted people are like maxed. But, and I would tell you, we could probably issue the survey next year at this time and we might get a completely different result, because previously the earlier start was the favored outcome. And I just while we're just clarifying, I misspoke. Eid al-Fitr falls during April vacation. That's why it's not affecting school. And Diwali is the holiday that falls on the weekend along with Three Kings Day. So again, many of our new holidays next year do not impact the school calendar like they did this year. Thank you, Deb.
All right. One more, then we'll,
Quick one.
Yep.
If Eid falls during April, oh, it is an H. Why? But it's green. It's not blue in there. It's usually blue. Oh, no, you're good. You're good. I see it, the H. You're good. Make your motion.
Think we did it. Okay. I don't have the motion in front of me, but I move move the Board of Education adjust the 2023-2024 school calendar as recommended by the superintendent of schools above.
Second.
motion is made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I have to ask. All right, I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Excuse me, Michael Branda,
Yes.
Danielle Droz,
Yes.
Dr. Bruce Fletcher,
Yes.
Beth Mankey Hutwagner,
Yes.
Richard Laveriere,
Yeah.
Amy Parati,
Absolutely, yes.
Jessica Weaver,
Yes.
and Anastasia Yap. Did she join?
Not yet.
So the motion passed unanimously 7-0.
All right, very good. Now we're going to move on to the next item, which is a discussion and possible action on the last day of school for 2022-2023. Dr. Brummett?
Yes, thank you. So as the board is aware, last year, in response to the aftermath of COVID, but also to promote and celebrate our equity work at the end of last year, we did request from the board, and it was granted that we make the last day a PD day to afford us that opportunity. That is a similar request this year. We have teachers that are experience quite a bit of burnout. I think, and this also, though not the primary reason, this also positively impacts the Anna Reynolds situation because they're going to need multiple half days at the end of the year to pack up for the phasing. So they need to back that up appropriately. So the principal felt that this would help in that endeavor. I will say, to earlier commentary, I did pose this today to our principals. They don't attend teacher council. And they indicated, for the most, had no issue with it. One or two indicated they did have a few parent complaints last year, feeling that it left them challenged to find daycare. The last day will be a half day regardless. That's typical. But there was an expression of concern by a few, I would think it was two principals, elementary, that they did hear a little bit from parents. I heard no parent complaints myself. To the point of what kind of day it would be. It's not your typical PD day. We would do, this year, the focus would be the marriage of equity with wellness. And there would be a very interactive, celebratory type of PD with some, fun aspects to it as well. So I think it would be deadly of me to say, okay, let's all, go into the high school auditorium for a 6-hour PowerPoint. But it is meant to be interactive. But, in fairness to some of the discussion I heard around the table a short time ago, as well as some of the principal feedback today, I'm not wedded to this. I have personally been approached by numerous teachers saying they loved last year. There was a huge positive feedback on it. But at the same time, if, I don't want any negative impact on the parents or what have you. So this would be nice to have. It's not essential to have. I would try to replicate it in August, but in August, another reason why we don't do this in August in this kind of format is there's so much to cover in August to get teachers geared up for the fall. Mandatory trainings, all kinds of new courses, special ed mandates. That's why August is typically jam-packed with content. And I'll turn it back over to you, Dr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Dr. Fletcher. So I have two concerns. I have a lot of concerns. One, when I will own the fact that I didn't read the agenda until today. So I did reach out to some teachers that I happen to be friendly with in Newington. This is not my own teacher friends, and said, you want to be with kids on the last day of school or you want PD on the last day of school? And it was unanimous. They're like, you better vote it down. We want to be with our kids. We want to be with our kids. So there's that. So we do everything with the survey. So before we voted on this, I would, if you are married to it, I think we need to truly get the teachers' input, because the ones that I got were like, no. Second, it concerns me about, I assume hourly people, like your bus drivers, your lunch people, like, I don't know about other people, like I count down to the last day, like my money that's coming in, and we're cutting their pay by a day, and that concerns me.
They're included. They would
And
come
bus
to,
drivers,
yep.
okay. And then the third thing is, I just think we're set, like, again, I have no skin in the game. My kid will be done on the 12th. So I don't want anyone to think that I have any skin in the game. I know the teachers want to be with their kids. I think keeping the kids in school as long as possible is what we're talking about. We want I don't know, that's my thing. So I don't agree with this. I have never met a teacher. Oh, I know what the third thing was. There was three. I'd be curious how much like the celebratory fun, as well as we know that it's not going to be all fun because I'm being a realist, how much it's actually going to cost the district. So, and we're talking about budgets and cutting things. And I mean, I assume we're going to feed them. We're going to do something fun. It's going to cost money. And so on that level, I would say no as well.
Beth?
I agree with that last point. I didn't think about that, but that is a good point. Yeah, it's a good one. What I wanted to say is at the end of last year, I did speak to several teachers who loved what was done at the last day. So for those who might be listening or that don't know, it was a really beautiful, like culminating celebration. Teachers felt good about it. It was like leaving on a good note. I will say that I think those same teachers who loved that activity would also, aren't married to it being on that last day, if that makes sense. So I think their desire, our Danielle spoke about, to be with students on the last day rather than a professional development, though that's not quite what it is separate from their enjoyment of the activity, if that makes sense. I think the celebration is important. I know there's some really good conversations that happened there with students as well, I believe, that were involved. And that was a really important aspect. I just don't know if teachers, maybe when the bell rings and the kids leave, I think this year the teachers need to also pack up their bag and say, have a good summer. But again, that is a separate feeling I think that teachers have from the enjoyment of this activity. So I just want to make that two separate things. And I would also say that I would want to get teacher opinion on this before. I would want to know more who I'm representing with my yes or no vote before I make a vote that impacts so many people.
Weaver?
Yeah, just a question. I mean, I'm probably going to defer to the teachers here on this panel as they are more on the day-to-day of this. I guess just question, like, again, process transparency of how we determine these things, right? Not just for us, but teachers always want to know, like, you voted on this. How did you come to that determination? So just that. And I think, honestly, my question would just be to, like, I'm a little bit removed from this, but like how my cousins in kindergarten preschool feel about their last day and how those teachers feel may be different than like the high school teachers and how that like iterates with finals and those kinds of things. So I think like high school teachers' last days are very different than middle and elementary school. So obviously just want to be cognizant of that. That doesn't sway me one way or the other. It's just more of like how those last days look, I think are very different. So just curious, like where the perhaps consternation with this or any qualms about it come from? Is it more like elementary, middle school level that don't have finals, or like high school teachers? I just think teachers may experience it differently. So maybe that's where like the different feedback is. And just curious if it came from the council, like, or was it?
Nope, this was actually an idea that was discussed several weeks back with my team, my central office team. And also some of the positive feedback we got from last year. It is a different year. And again, I'm not wedded to this. I thought it would be an opportunity to do, we have some grant money, so that's the cost coverage piece. But if there is any consternation about impacting the last day, it won't affect finals because they have to gear those back from when people are graduating. I would imagine elementary teachers might have, I'm not sure who you spoke with, like more of a desire to stay with the kids another day. I can't speak to, yeah. And this has not been put out to the group at large, and time is kind of the essence. So I think if the board tonight is not comfortable moving it forward, I say we table it and leave it at 181 days. And I will work with my team to see if we can do something. Because there were a few folks that, though I think universally it was a very well-received PD, who said, hey, could we do this at the kickoff? Which again, I'd like to, it's just that the minute there are so many competing topics and coverage, but if we can, we will. But I'd be happy to remove this request because I also heard some principal concern about parents with daycare issues for that half day.
Mr. Brando?
I have a question and then just some quick thoughts. The May 9th Professional Learning Day, is that already booked as like all the plans for that day are already set? Like it's not possible to do this idea on that early release Tuesday?
Oh.
Sorry if I wasn't clear.
So that's,
You need a full day for it.
yeah, we did contemplate like Friday, the 9th of June and make it just a half day, but logistically with moving every teacher in the district to one location, it's a full day. We just realized, we toyed with it, but we couldn't pull it off.
So I'm not sure if you heard, but I'm in favor of 180 days instead of 181.
I got wind of it.
But Mr. Parisi's explanation kind of made me know that Danielle was going to win the argument because he talked about instructional time. And I was like, no, I shouldn't have mentioned it during that last agenda item. But I do think that there's something to the idea of an end of the year celebration because we've talked about pretty exhaustively at this table how morale is low, not just here, it's everywhere in the, in the education field. And I think if there's some way, whether it's this year or we start planning for it next year, where we have some sort of end of the year celebration, not only on specific wins in terms of topics like equity and things like that, but maybe building awards and things like that. Like I love how we do Teacher of the Year when you go and visit them, but maybe like the Teacher of the Year getting honored in front of everybody, the Para of the Year getting honored in front of everybody, and just having specific building awards and recognition that, again, you send them off on their summer to have a great year. They remember the positives, hopefully, of the school year. They let the negatives go, and then you have this awesome kickoff at the end of the summer. So I don't want to lose sight of that. I hope that it's something that, whether this passes, you can maybe think about for next year on that 181st day, perhaps. But just something to keep in mind, because I think that there's something to it. And I think it's a great idea to keep morale high and keep moving them forward.
All right, Amy?
Yeah, I was actually excited to see that this was on the agenda tonight because I thought that I had talked to teachers at the end of last year and they really loved it. And one of the principals that I know. So I was excited to see it because I know that it's kind of a good culmination of the end of the year, and I understand instructional time, and I understand that some, teachers might want to be with their students on the last day, but that would be the day before. And also knowing that graduation is the 12th, so it's, it's just like everyone's done on June 12th, huge graduation celebration, come back together the next day. And especially how it says equity and wellness, because I know that that's something that we really want to focus on, just because we really want our teachers to take care of themselves and be ready to teach all the time. So I liked it. I liked this idea, and I would be voting yes if we go to a vote. Thank you.
Ms. Weaver?
Perhaps we can address Mr. Branda's ideas with Mr. Parisi's wellness update later on in this agenda. Yeah, and I just want to say there's no actual motion for this.
No.
So I know it says like discussion possible action, but there's literally no motion for this. So I think we're good.
So far, it's just a discussion item, so I would suggest that we do the research you're asking about and bring it to our next meeting. All right? Very good. Let's move on. The next one is an action item, and that is the Board of Education budget, which we're all excited to talk about.
So I'm going to start and then Lou can jump in and make sure or, add any additional information. So the memo that is in your packet outlines where the budget started at 6.68%, where the board adopted it at 5.95%, and the transmittal to the town government at 5.95%. Then the town manager proposed it at 3.5%, and then the town council restoration brought it back up a full percentage point to 4.5%. How was that accomplished? There was an agreement, and the board agreed with these MOUs, and the town ultimately did as well. So there were 2 MOUs from the Health Benefit Fund and from our CIP account that put money back into the budget. The town allocated, above and beyond the 2 MOUs, another $140,000 to the operating budget. And so in total, with those 3 actions, an additional $785,000, $370 was restored to the board's budget. So that put us at 4.5. Where the issue now is that we had needed 5.95 to get to where we needed to go. So there was some adjustments needed. And these are all things that have been previously discussed by the board. I have made a few tweaks that I want to draw your attention to. Diesel fuel, we talked about. The projections that were done early on in the budget process came back more favorably. Therefore, we reduced diesel, or recommend that reduced by 41,640. Electricity previously was a reduction of 149,309. I'm recommending a higher reduction because that continues to look more favorable of 169. But you'll see down the line, I've reduced the PD cut from 40 to 20 because the PD cut at 40 was a very dramatic cut. Everything else is the same. The other salaries was something we discussed as a board, I think, several times. Athletic supplies reduction, several times. PD is a change from 40 to 20. And the curriculum materials is what we talked about as a board previously. So the only other thing, so those cuts brought about another $412,714. The board is also aware that we have been in a budget freeze, still are, since probably at least 2 months now, a month and a half. And that has helped us to keep a tight eye on the budget. It has allowed us to project not to have to use much, if any, of the non-lapsing money. So that is where we are now recommending that the remaining balance of the budget shortfall come from the non-lapsing fund. So that all told reduces that budget by $1,142,152 with the cuts we've made, with the adjustments that the town made, and then a little higher reliance on the non-lapsing fund. So that is the summary. Lou, is there anything I didn't explain correctly?
Not everything.
Okay. So that is it. I want to publicly say that I was pleased with the level of discourse between my office and the mayor's office that brought about a lot of these agreements. We had some back and forth dialogue in person, online, on the phone. And that was very productive. And it did, allow for, I felt very strong level of commitment from the town that they did not want any layoffs. And they were very clear that, they don't want us to lay people off. So there's nothing in these adjustments that shows a reduction in people, because that was our gentleman's agreement that, they'll restore some money and move things around. I will not reflect it here is that there was an adjustment to the capital budget as well. The town noted that we had about 600 and, what's that amount, Lou?
644,000.
644,000. Long story, that's money that's been set aside from years ago for possible restoration of a new bus garage. That's never happened. We have nothing on the horizon about where the bus garage might go. So the town wants us to use that money this year to pay for buses. So they removed buses from the capital, but said we can use that money, which is actually more than what we had asked for buses. Other than that, those are all the adjustments. But what the board would need to approve tonight is the reconciliation as listed on this memo.
Okay,
Move first or then?
let's move first.
Move the Board of Education budget for the 2023-2024 be reduced by $1,142,152. The cut will be a combination of line item cuts coupled with the use of the non-lapsing fund resources. Accounts are to be adjusted as follows.
Second.
Yep. I gotta say all of it. Thank you. These are
Carry on.
I didn't say the account numbers too, right, Lou? The account numbers too, right, Lou?
Sorry?
Say the account numbers. Okay, awesome. Diesel fuel adjustment in account 2700-626, amount of $41,640. Electricity adjustment in account 2620-622 in the amount of $169,309. Other salary adjustment in account 1190-111 in the account of $100,000 of athletic supplies in account 3220-611 in the amount of $20,000. PD cuts in the account 2810-599 in the account of $20,000. In curriculum materials, the account 1002-611 in the amount of $61,766. Total budget cuts of $412,714. Utilizing the NLF, the non-lapsing fund resources to balance the budget. In account 102-101 $101, $145,000, $887.50. In the account 1020-111, the account of $145,000, $887 and $145,887.50. Account 1026-111, $145,887.50. 1028-111, $145,887.50. And account 1030-111, $140,887.50. A total of $729,438. Total deductions, $1,142,152.
For point of clarification, curriculum materials is 61,765.
65.
Yeah, that's okay.
Guys, I tripped.
You did
Sorry.
well. You got a 99%. You did well. Okay, motion is made. Motion is made and seconded. Now it's open for discussion. Go ahead. We'll start with you, Danielle.
It's zero.
Oh, boy.
You know,
Me too.
Let's go around the table. Amy?
I'm good. Thank you for clarifying the buses, because that was a question that I had, where the money to buy buses was coming from, and that was nice of them to suggest that other account. So thank you. And thank you for all your hard work and the mayor's work and the whole town council for the collaboration.
And Ms. Weaver, if you have caught your breath, go
yeah,
ahead.
all good. No, I'm so sorry. I just want to say again, express gratitude. Thank you so much for Dr. Rummett, Dr. Fletcher, for having that dialogue. I think probably sitting here like 1 or 2 months ago, we were not exactly sure where we were going to be. So, you know, we always leave this budget table a little on edge. So appreciate it that we can come here with a much lower blood pressure on that. I just kind of want to outline those points of restoration. My question too is we've done this health benefit fund MOU like 3 years in a row now, it feels like. So I guess kind of my question is this just going to be a standing one, or how do we get around it so we maybe don't have to do that? Or is it just going to be like standard practice? Because I think sometimes we rely on that, but it's not necessarily part of the operating and how we do that. So, you know, we can't just, in my opinion, always rely on it. Obviously, we want to continue these good faith efforts, and they've come through every time. So that's great. It's just more of kind of a budgeting practice. I'm curious how that continues to be sustainable when all of us are long gone is one of my points of clarification.
I'll start and then I'll ask Lou, because he's had more experience with this than I do. I think the board may recall that in previous years, that budget or that health benefit credit was substantial. My first year here, I think it was $700,000-800,000. And there was a lot of bad press around that we had slush money or what have you. Previously, though, we used that to buy buses because we weren't getting the bus funding or the technology funding. It kind of seeded technology and buses. Once that was put back into the budget several years ago, both of those items are now typically in the capital budget. It was no longer necessary to use that money, so we had been turning it back to the town as a good faith gesture. But that money is shrinking because, and maybe Lou, you can explain why the money in that health benefit credit continues to shrink.
Okay. At the outset of the program back in the 1990s, prescription rebates were a new thing in the marketplace. You know, incentives to have pharmacists and doctors prescribe the generic or lower cost options compared to name brand. First year of the plan operations, I believe the total drug rebate was about $10,000 between the board and the town. Now that's up to $300,000 in value. So the way the plan was originally designed is the drug rebate became part of the settlement as a give back to both the town and the board for money they had to pay up front and then get the rebate back at the end. So that number grew to $250,000. What Anthem and our agent of record have done for us is they basically built in the value of that rebate in the renewal. So at this time of the year, when they're finalizing all the numbers, that potential benefit is built into the rate structure that the Board of Ed and the town gets for the cost of the plan. So instead of a $250,000 just dedicated to rebates, we got about $30,000 last year just for the differential from the estimate to the final. So it's served multiple purposes. It allows both the board and the town to be able to present a lower budget request each year because they're getting a net number to budget from, not just a gross. And it also dissuades all of the perceptions that this is being sandbagged. And really, both the board and the town had no control over this. It was just the evolution of the plan and the marketplace out there. So that is what really transpired. Other than that, with the last few years, there have been a number of mandates that have gone into the plan with because of COVID and other related universal measures that they put in with some of the the vaccines and other sorts of testing that's now no cost to the participants in the effort of trying to have better wellness for the whole plan. That has escalated the operating costs that really it hasn't shown in the ratings so far in the plan. So we've been going much closer to the actual contributions instead of running a big positive variance every year. We're a lot closer to our trend line at the start. So the last year we only had $156,000 as a positive position at year end, which was the settlement. At the March 20th settlement estimate that we put together, we were trending about $140,000 ahead at that point. So these are all numbers that are up for grabs and can change in a day, but we're nowhere near that volatility in magnitude for the foreseeable future in the health benefits area. So it shouldn't really be an area of contention going forward for at least 5 to 10 more years at this point.
So I guess kind of moving that forward, like this won't be necessarily something we can rely on in terms of restoration. It's not one of those, I guess, points of less contention that we can maybe do. So I think that's just something to keep in mind as we move forward. But again, I just really appreciate those kind of, we do work here, but I think a lot of the work goes on, between those dialogues in the back as you really get to the numbers with the town. So thank you for all your work that you've done.
Thank you. Brenda?
Yeah, just echoing everybody in terms of my thanks to Lou and Maureen and the entire team. I know that this was a lot, and every day you were looking at the numbers and with the frozen budget and just trying to make sure that, depending on worst case scenario, I think you were trying to plan ahead. So I'm sure that, or I hope everybody appreciates that. One thing that just it still sticks with me though, is that, we're cutting significant amounts of money from certain areas, specifically curriculum, the athletic supplies, and the other salaries, which is really just in a roundabout way that we're not able to recruit our paras or other people to come in, or we don't have good substructure and we can't recruit people. So we're not spending the money that we have in there because maybe we don't have the ability to have a better program. So it's kind of it's great that we're able to cut that money, but it also means we don't have the people to use that money for, which isn't the best thing because that could negatively impact our schools. So I just hope that moving forward, we find a way to just make sure that focus on the curriculum items, that we're saying what was removed so that ahead of the next budget, we can have, instead of labeling it $61,000 and change, we can talk about what that was and what's that impact. Because I think too often with the budget, we talk about the numbers and not the people that it affects. And I hope that we can get back there as a town, not just as Board of Ed, but just overall, because I think we focus way too much on just the percent and the dollars and cents, which are important, but I think we just lose sight of what that impacts. The only other thing is with the new town manager eventually coming, I don't even know what that process is looking like. My suggestion would be, and just throwing this into the universe, is once that person is hired, that the presentations that we all saw, where we go over the past budget book and we explain, or we listen to the explanations of what is this program? Here's the money. Here's how we use it. Here's why it's important. I think that would be really beneficial for the new town manager to hear just from you and your entire team, so that going into the next budget, they're more focused on that collaboration, because I think that's so important. I think that we, again, for the last several years, that connection hasn't been there in this town. And I don't think it's only up to this body to do that, but I think seeing as the person that would fill that office will be brand new, I think it's worthwhile that we extend that olive branch to say, we would love for you to get to know our school system a little bit more, invite them to some of our school assemblies, and like really make that connection with them, and make sure that they are visible in our schools, and they have the opportunity to show that they are invested in our schools and that they want to partner with us. So I just want to throw that out there, because I know you worked hard on the budget, and I know in the past there's been some hurdles and challenges with the town. And I think we have an opportunity moving forward to not necessarily avoid all of the discussions and all the tough conversation, but at least to have a better understanding of where the school district's coming from in terms of our budget needs, outside of just, here's our percent, you don't like that percent, and now we're fighting over dollars and cents instead of who's actually impacted by it. Thanks.
Thank you.
You said a lot, everything I was going to say. So I will not be repetitive, but I do just want to also personally just thank your team, Dr. Brummett, and to thank the town councilors. I think it was, and the mayor. I think it was definitely a team effort, a joint effort. I think there was a lot of really good communication that happened. I think good questions were asked. And thank you for your communication between your team and all of us, keeping us updated so that we really knew how to proceed and make these decisions. And then I also just wanted to thank members of this board who really, like Danielle, I know that you really like dug into that book. Yeah, we can tell you're a math teacher. And no matter what anybody says, I think our personal life experiences do enrich this board. And I think who we are as individuals, it's very important to bring those experiences to the table. So thank you, all of you, because I think everybody's personal life experiences, they were able to bring to the discussion, and it led to us moving forward. So thank you to all.
Mr. Leverrier?
Yes, I just do want to say, that I'm going to vote yes for this. I'm glad that we could make it work without an all-around tax increase. And I do just want to say, like, for point of clarification, all in all, we're not talking about cuts. We're talking about a reduction in the request. It still is an increase. So, I mean, just saying the word cuts to me seems a little bit politically disingenuous. But other than that, I am going to vote yes. Thanks.
All right, let me say thank you, Dr. Brummett and your team. Appreciate everything you did. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Michael Miranda,
Yes.
Danielle Droz.
Yes.
Dr. Bruce Fletcher,
Yes.
Beth Mackey Hupperger,
Yes.
Richard Leverrier,
Yes.
Amy Parati,
Yes.
Jessica Weaver.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously 7-0.
All right, very good. Now we're going to move on to item number 4, and that's our wellness update. So, Dr. Brummett?
Thank you. We had gotten some feedback from a board member that they wanted some additional information on our wellness efforts, which actually was born at a board meeting where there was, discussion about teachers and how they've been recovering from the COVID impact. So Steve was gracious enough to put together a presentation. I'm going to turn my screen off so he can turn his screen on, and he will share with you some of the work we're doing relative to wellness.
Right? How would I get video? How would I be the?
You want to share it to the meeting so everyone can see it.
Okay.
If you're in the Google Meet, you're going to share your screen to the Google Meet.
Dr. Brummett, do you link out to it with what you just had open?
Yes.
Maybe I'll just have you,
All right,
you do that and I'll just,
Otherwise, both on.
I would just need
yeah, I got you.
you to send me your most current presentation. Did you email it to me?
So while Dr. Brummett is bringing that up, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about the Wellness Committee. It's a district-wide committee comprised of administrators and educators, only about with Dr. Brummett, 4 administrators and then all teachers. And really it was born out of an opportunity for us to listen to some of the challenges that teachers have been expressing. And then we thought what would be an appropriate way to address some of those challenges. And when you think about it and you kind of try to think about wellness in general, there are kind of 2 components to it. One is organizational. And so what is the organization doing to support staff wellness? And then the second is your own personal, right? What are you doing? So our focus, as you can imagine, is on organizational wellness, and then what can the organization do to support groups of people as well as individuals where appropriate. So I pause here and leave this open for a moment, only to share that what's so critical about what we've developed here is that it really is a focus on creating a workplace culture that supports a comprehensive approach to each staff member's well-being. In the past, previous to this committee's kind of coming together, what we offered folks was really just focused on emotional wellness. So if you were someone who was struggling with anything emotionally, we had an employee assistance program, something that many of you around the table might have at your own organization. And then, that was offered and available to people. And we gave a minimal opportunity for physical wellness through a reduction that health tracks would give us. If you were an educator and went there and worked for the Newington Public Schools, you could get a discount, which was fantastic. But what we've really tried to think about here is how do we expand that beyond? Because we know that people experience challenges throughout their life that bring different levels of stress. So how as an organization can we support the variety of areas that impact people's health and wellness, and how do we support them with that? So what I'd like to share is, if you would advance to the next slide, please, Dr. Brummett. The way we need to do that and why we need to do this is really to not just support people's ability to be as effective as they can with their students every day, but also to be able to advance the organizational goals and mission, right? So Dr. Brummett, if you would put up the next 3 tabs, that would be great. So really, if our charge is to reduce the opportunity gap, and really improve access to high quality education through rigorous, relevant, and engaging work. And to do that in small groups where we work as teams, PLCs, to achieve that, and then know that I have to then go do it in my classroom. And we have to make sure we're ensuring that all students are able to be successful. That requires a demand on everyone. Everyone involved to be able to be very available to do that work. And so really the focus of our wellness work is to say, how do we create an organizational structure that can address wellness so that staff can be able to do this and we can set out to meet our organizational goals and people can feel good about it and available to do it. So with that, Dr. Brummett, if you would go into the next slide. So we've taken a journey to do that. And what I'd love to tell you is, we all wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and we all go for a run together and now we're all well and everything's perfect. We don't do that, number one. And number 2, this work has not been about a thing or things that are going to fix it. We're not here to fix it right now. What we're here to do is build a system and a structure so that way what we deal with is able to be managed systemically, systematically in our organization for people, so that way it's sustainable. So with that being said, here's the journey that we've taken just this year in our inaugural year to get started. If you just click once, Dr. Brummett, thank you. So we first opened at the end of last year, knowing that we wanted to kick this off for this year with a request to all staff who would like to be a part of this journey and who would like to be a part of this work. So we put out a participation survey, and we collected the names of folks who would be interested. Next, Dr. Brummett. And then we held our first meeting in October of this year, where we started to identify what is the purpose of this team? Like, why are we getting together? What is our charge? What do we hope to do? And what would be something that would really, we would be able to kind of start and create now, but can lead us into the future to continue to support wellness district-wide. Next, thank you. And that's what we started working on the first meeting. Meeting number 2, we really finalized that, looked at it again. What are our goals? What's our purpose and process? How do we really act? And what do we do when we're a team, when we're together? And what does that look like? Those are all critical things to really build a purpose and a mission as to why we even come together. And we want to make sure that when people are coming out of the classroom to be a part of this, that it's meaningful and relevant, and it's really making a difference. So we really needed to get at the heart of what we do. And we decided at that time, well, in the first meeting, that we would need to do a staff survey on wellness, and then we kind of edited and approved the staff wellness survey at this meeting in November, so then we could put it out to all staff. Next slide. Yeah. So then we, not only did we put out a survey to all staff, but Dr. Brown, if you could click the word website, we've also done here what I've done with our policy committee. And we launched a district wellness committee website so we could be transparent and open about the work we're doing. So you'll see here, if you go up a little bit, Dr. Brummett, at the top, you'll see what our purpose is, what we've created as goals and our function, our committee roadmap of where we're going. Now, this is work that's transpired over months this year, but it's developed now into everything. So after every meeting, we update this, and this is available to anyone right off of our district website. So I don't want to spend a lot of time here. I encourage you to go and really look deeper into the work we've been doing. But from here, Dr. Brummett, if you could click one more, what we've done is we met again. We reviewed the results of the survey. So we really dug into the data of what staff were telling us so we could identify major themes of what people were saying about wellness in the organization and for themselves, and what the organization might be able to do a little bit differently or better for them. As well as we considered a new employee assistance program at that time. I introduced, as I did to you in the opening slide, 8 areas of wellness beyond just emotional wellness. There's physical, there's financial, there's environmental, there's occupational. There are 8 other areas that many other organizations have taken the charge and lead to create in their system that we really needed to think again about and revisit. So we looked at opportunities through a new employee assistance program. And then the team finally decided that's a great opportunity, and we went in and we piloted it. So if you click one more, Dr. Brummett, this is where we definitely piloted the EAP program, and we kind of purchased that service. It is now a very robust service that I'll share with you in just a moment. Some of the key elements providing to us what we've never had before in the organization. But then when we got back together, we just needed to make sure that we updated the goals based on the survey. So the staff survey result was very influential in us revisiting our reason for existing, what goals we had, and then now what is going to be our plan with this data. What's our roadmap from what the data is telling us? Like, what are we going to do now that's actionable? And how do we communicate that? So we divided, as always in our meetings, into groups, and we had a communication group deciding and developing a communication plan, and then a roadmap group developing a roadmap for our work moving forward. And then if you'll advance the slide, Dr. Brummett, And in the interim of that, we approved the EAP program. And if you want to click on that, you're a very good driver, by the way, Dr. Brummett. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And so you'll just see here, this program offers so much more than we've ever had before. So not only can you call this number or go right to the website and get counseling opportunities, but it's not just counseling about what it only used to be in the past, which was emotional counseling. It's counseling around anything. If you're having a work-life issue, if you're about to retire, you can call them up and they'll give you guidance and advice and set you up with a financial advisor, counselor to help you with that. If you need self-help resources because you're having trouble with something, if you feel like you want to improve and be better at your peak performance, they'll do that. Any personal development and training. And if you go down a little further to the next, portion of the brochure, Dr. Brummett, here's what you see like that they offer with the counseling benefits, the personal development, the financial development. So what's really neat about this company is the second you call and you say, and you press the button that you're calling for financial counseling, they immediately hook you up with a financial counselor, not a psychologist to help you with emotional wellness. That's a very big difference, right? If you're calling to talk about physical or nutritional wellness, they hook you up with a physical nutritional counselor. So you immediately get access to counselors certified in that field, and you're guaranteed immediate response when you call. That's huge, and that's very different than what we've ever had before. If you're going through bereavement, a life change, anything, they'll set you up with that counseling service. And then it also comes with a whole suite of online videos and tutorials, where if you just want to go and learn about it on your own, you can go into thousands of different areas of this, buy these subjects and go and learn from professionals out there, and or join Discord groups where you can have conversations about these things in their private environment with people that they work with throughout the country. So there are many more and robust opportunities than we ever offered staff before. I'll pause there too, because I'll let you get into this on your own just for the sake of time. And if any questions ever come up, please contact me. But Dr. Brummett, if we could please go back to the presentation. So now if we click one more, we then sent team members a survey on who would want to participate in the Connecticut Associations of Schools Leadership Conference. And the leadership conference was focused solely on educational staff's wellness. It was like beautiful timing. Thank you, Dr. Brummett, for forwarding that to me. And so we got this, and it was coming up, and we threw it out to the committee members and said, who would like to go? I can take like up to 8 people, because I can manage that through a grant. And it worked out beautifully. 8 people were like, yeah, let's go. And it worked out great. So we took 8 folks to that conference. And if you want to keep advancing, in between all that and from February 9th and moving forward to the end of the year, we actually just finished them all. We launched the new EAP program. So not only did we work on it as a committee, look at it, review it, analyze it, then I got approval, then I moved it forward. Now we launched it with all staff. So we actually did a road show where Kim Davis in my office went to every group in our organization, paraeducators, bus drivers, each school for teachers, staff meetings, things like that, and did a road show to present. This is what you now have access to. Here's what it is. Here's what it looks like. If you have any questions, do you need help accessing it? Call my, all that stuff. So personalized it so people knew it was available to them, so they accessed it. We already have access reports. It's going really well, by the way. And then if you continue on, Dr. Brummett. So then we came back and we finalized our communication plan. We reworked the roadmap again. So you'll see some things that have happened, repetitively, but I just want to be clear. At first, we were only meeting for like 90 minutes at a time, and then we upped it to like 2 hours. So, these are small chunks of time. So to think you're going to create a communication plan, a roadmap, a vision of who you want to be and what you want to do, and it takes time, right, to build this out if you really want it to be meaningful and sustaining. And so that's what we did. We worked on this, finalized those things on March 6th. Dr. Brummett, if you want to carry us forward. And then the subgroup did go to that retreat on March 17th. they walked away with some excellent kind of opportunities to learn about what could look different in the organization than how things currently look that could support educators' wellness. I'll give a brief example and I'll go into it a little bit deeper in a few minutes, but even like just how we can create boundaries within our workplace that can help support our own wellness. Certain boundaries have to do with how frequently, how easily, how much you're expected to be in communication, whether it be email or texting with colleagues and your leader and parents, and at what times and all hours and, weekends and all that stuff. And how do you really create an environment that is welcoming and open and communicative, but with boundaries that are respectful and understanding so people can then address and manage their own personal things and don't feel like, they can't do that and then become unwell because of it. So those are just small little examples, but there were lots of great tidbits like that came out of it and other even bigger things. So if you advance one more, Dr. Brummett. And then we reviewed the retreat information when we got everyone together, and people who went were responsible for bringing back the knowledge and being able to break it up and really assess where we are and what we're trying to do against what our learning was, and then recalibrate all that and revise all that. We also brought in Dr. Lisa Sinetti, who is a professor at the University of Connecticut, former school psychologist, so born in the field and then moved into the professorship and has been there for the last decade and a half, and is running research groups around this very topic right now. One of the first ever grants in education on that. So she came and I had her analyze from our website all the work we've done to date, gave her all our meeting PowerPoints, presentations, everything. She did a thorough review and comprehensive review of everything, and then came to our team meeting and was able to be a part of it and then give us some feedback and talk to us about if we're on the right track or if we need to rethink some things. Not only are we on the right track, but she liked it so much that she felt like their study could be influenced by the work that we've done to date. So that was very affirming and validating of the team's time and efforts to date. So Dr. Sinetti is going to continue, I think, to work with us a little bit to keep the work going and to be able to give us her insights for her expertise on where we can keep moving forward. And then we have our last meeting coming up. If you want to click one more time, Dr. Brummett, I think it's May 15th. One more time, sorry. Yep. And we're working on taking those things that we need to be actionable and making sure that our communication plan is shared with everyone. So that'll really be where we start to be able to share with everyone where we are, what we've done this year, and where we're going into next year. And Dr. Brummett already mentioned some things about how we're going to, connect the intersect between equity and wellness, because we know in order to do equity work well, we need to be well. And so that's a critical part of it. And that's what we're going to keep working on. So Dr. Brummett, if you want to go to the next slide, please. Here is our roadmap, and it's right on our website. And I know it's a little bit small, and I'm not going to read it all to you or read to readers, but it just talks about our journey from October to March, what we plan to do from April to the end of the year, and then what we're going to do moving, like our executables moving into next year. So no different than a maybe startup company, right? We have a roadmap, we have a plan, and we're executing. And we're revising along the way, don't get me wrong. We don't think our plan is perfect. We didn't all go to school to be educator wellness professionals, right? But we all know that we need to create an organization that supports staff and allows them to be as best they can in the organization. And to do that, we know we need to address their wellness and take care of it as best we can. It doesn't mean we can manage every person's individual needs. That isn't what an organization can always do, but an organization creates systems in it that are really in the best interest of being able to get the work done, but in the most efficient and effective way possible so people can feel well doing it. Okay. So with that, Dr. Brummett, our latest learning, as I shared with you, Dr. Sinetti did share with us that we're on the right track. We're just going to keep going. We're going to keep soliciting feedback from professionals on what we're doing and make sure we stay on that right track. next, Dr. Brummett. We're going to continue to listen to teachers. We know that's critical. A lot of studies just came out recently, and many of them maybe professional associations that some of you around the table belong to, around teacher burnout, around things that create systems to support educator wellness. And one of them, one of the biggest ones, and one that this board advocates for all the time, listening to teachers, getting survey information, talking to staff, hearing really what is going on, and then trying to address that. So we'll continue to do that. We did it this year with a survey. We plan on doing the same thing. Our committee is like dedicated to that, being 80% teachers themselves. They really realize the value in that and want that to keep happening. And the last one, Dr. Brummett, is really just that, to nurture that climate of self-care. So we are going to work on things that help us to be able to create either professional boundaries or those things in an organization that we can do to be able to support a climate of self-care. And that will be work that we do with the administrators first, because we know that our leaders need to be understanding of what self-care is in an organization, be able to create up the systems and structures in their schedule, in the day-to-day lives of what educators are expected to do. So that way we can create that for them moving into next year, and then be able to monitor its implementation and be able to make those adjustments as needed. Last slide. Here are the nope, you're almost there. Here are the resources of everything I've spoken to. So I know this presentation will be made available to you. So I want you to just be able to have access to all those resources so you can peruse it on your own. And as always, I'm available to any questions you might have, thoughts along the way.
All right, very good. Why don't you come and sit here and field the questions? I'll be back in a minute.
I was like, wait, it's not that important. Okay. Really quick, if there isn't mind, I just wanted to say that this is incredibly validating as an educator to hear. I think that sometimes people just don't understand. And I think that most educators do their job with such intense passion and because of that, there is that sense of burnout. And even just the little things, like I remember going to a professional development years ago where they just taught you how to organize your Outlook mailbox to be more efficient in responding. And I thought that was like something so little, but it does make a difference and does take the stress off. So just thank you for this work. It's so incredibly important. And I just wanted to inquire if you're able to share what were the common themes that came up in the survey that you gave out.
Well, the major themes, if we were to go back to the roadmap, are being addressed in the roadmap. So those are the major themes. So if we want to just bring up some, I'm sorry, the next one, which it is a little bit on the smaller side. Yeah, right here. So I can tell you that, staff have spoken a lot about, so here's a good example, right? And one that garnered a lot of conversation in our committee meeting. So when students are having a tough day and they're engaged and maybe managing difficult emotionality, we give them breaks. We give them a place where they can kind of, take a load off and be able to kind of reset so they can come back in and then be available for learning, right? When staff have similar challenges throughout their day, where's the opportunity for them to reset so they can be their very best for the kiddos in front of them, right? So just thinking about that and trying to create an environment where opportunities like that are available. And it might look very different, obviously, than it would for a student, but, and it might not be exactly in the moment of when a student would need it. Like we manage a student in the moment because that's what they need, right? But for a staff member to be able to say, it's my break time right now. Is there a place I can go that's actually quiet, calm, where I can collect myself and kind of re-energize, or not? Because oftentimes when we do an assessment of our buildings and how they're situated right now, the answer is there isn't. If you can eat lunch sometimes outside of your classroom, that's a luxury, right? I mean, it's the reality. So how do we rethink space, what we can do in those spaces, so that's just one small example of something that's big on here though, that could make an impact for people, at least a number of people who spoke up about the concern. And there's others like that in here. So I won't go through them all, but I think this gives you a good sense of what we were able to extract from that survey.
A few thoughts. So thank you, especially on the short notice of me writing an email asking to see all this. So that was great. So one thing that I just wanted to ask on the roadmap or the funny road, on May 22nd, you asked for people to join the committee. Is there going to be another request? Because now that I'm curious about new teachers because of that gap of, now that they've had their full year under their belt in the district, what kind of perspective they can bring to this committee, especially seeing or coming from other districts. So is that something that you're going to be doing, always recruiting new people, or are we trying to just stick with this committee because of the work they've done?
So we haven't made that decision yet, but on May 15th, when we get together, we do have to have that conversation for two reasons. One, the original committee, or the current committee is the original committee, does not have representation from every school right now as it stands. So that in and of itself is somewhat problematic, or the committee sees as problematic, because when you talk about a communication plan, having representation and the ability to then bring that back and share at a staff meeting or other meetings that happen at the building is powerful, right? So we do want to have greater representation from all schools. And then it would also be the conversation around, so similar to board members, right? Like what's your time frame on the committee? Are we doing 2 years? Are we doing 3 years, 4? And what's the rotational period where others would have opportunities to come on board? Because there's power in developing capacity through committees like this, for it to continuously have systemic and systematic impact. So that is what we are looking at on the 15th. So thank you for that question.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I think the idea of, obviously, I think getting into every school and having at least somebody represent each school is really important. So I hope we can find ways to do that. But you touched on a few things that, like, as I was writing notes and then you said it. And what I really like about this and kind of where you're going is that from a district perspective, a lot of what we hear about is like, okay, if you just take social emotional learning, like, we have really good strategies to help our students. But then, as you said, towards the end, we don't think about it from our educator perspective as much as maybe we should. So I think we do so much for the students, and rightfully so. And maybe what we can do is develop strategies that are obviously more meant for adults, but that can take the actions or all of the things going on for students, and we take a step back and we think about how that impacts the teachers and anybody who's dealing with those students from a day-to-day basis. What I really love about this too is it reminds me a lot of our equity work in terms of we have to be honest about everything that's going on. And I think what's really incredible, and I think Dr. Brummett and Steve and everybody should be commended for, is the only way something like this can work is if the people on the committee and then the people who take you up on what you're offering feel like you're listening. And I think that's number one. And that's the same with the equity work, right? Like, we had Bev here last week, and it's not just about like, here's what we're doing, just go do it. It's more, let's have a conversation. Let's be honest about it. Let's try to find solutions. And also, let's be honest about the fact we're not going to solve it all right now. We can't, right? First of all, it's always evolving, but also it gives everybody a chance to learn about themselves and to learn about their coworkers a little bit more, I think. And you said that you weren't a wellness pro, and I don't think that you need to be in order to be successful. But what I really like about this too is that you can be an empathy pro, and you can be somebody who just is willing to listen and hear other people's experiences, learn from them. And now you and Dr. Brummett and the building administrators and everybody have the ability to put things into place that can really help the people that maybe didn't know or weren't comfortable raising their hand saying that they needed help. So having that system in place, I think I think it's awesome. And I'm so happy that we talked about it for a very short amount of time. And instead of just talking about it and trying to figuring out, you just ran with it. And I think you should be commended for that, and your entire team just commended for the amount of effort that you're putting into this, because again, as we've said over and over, you know, the morale of educators, not just in this town, in this state, it's all over, is so low, and you have people leaving. And I think, again, you're not going to solve all that, but this is going to help. This might, if this keeps one great educator afloat, great, right? So I just want to, you know, thank you for this work, and I'm excited to hear how it continues moving forward.
All right, Mr. Laveriere online.
Yes, I saw the term Zen zone, and I'm thinking like, hey, I've heard similar things, calling them safe spaces, that sort of stuff. And I know that teachers have their own teacher lounge. What kind of other environment, if any, are we talking about here? What is it that the teachers need for their safe space besides the teacher's lounge?
Just going to give my perspective as an educator. So
Well,
if that's okay.
I was asking Mr. Parisi, but okay.
And I'm going to defer to you, Ms. Hudbagner.
I don't want to speak. If you are having a very tough day, if a child really broke down in your room, let's say they threw a chair because they're really struggling, that is a very emotional experience. And a teacher's lounge is usually set up like this room. There are tables. It is a space to go and eat lunch with other people or talk with other people. And if you are crying and experiencing frustration and confusion and high levels of emotion, you might not want to do that in front of a bunch of other people. So just a closet even to go to, just speaking my own position, to just have a minute to cry and process before you go back in front of children.
I can say ditto to that, because most of our teachers' rooms that we have are crowded.
Well, I'm a little, I'm a little concerned. I don't want teachers to have to go to a closet to cry, but I want to make sure that they do have the appropriate mental, assistance that they do need. But I'm just trying to figure out maybe what we can set up for them. But maybe, I don't know, maybe we can look at maybe when Ms. Lisa, I forget her name. Maybe when we get more guidance from her, maybe that'll be more clear. But thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate the inquiry, Mr. Laveriere. I think that is exactly the work that we have on the roadmap, because that's work that the team will address next year. So what we know is that is something that we want to get to and be able to, delve deeper into and look at what would an effective space like that, what would constitute an effective space like that. And so I think, the closet example is just any room right now, because right now we're at we don't have a room at all. We don't have a place at all. And oftentimes we are trying to makeshift rooms in the educational environment, because it isn't a very spacious environment. And so we're always looking at every space that's available and trying to recreate it and reformat it to be available for what our needs are. So we will investigate that, look into it as a team, and then develop in each school, what would be appropriate. But I know some other board members probably have phenomenal comments as well.
All right, thanks, Mr. Parisi, and thanks, Ms. Hudbagner.
I just want to, I know sometimes things get like run with. He said, thank you. Like the Zen room. I just want to remind people that education, although teachers are 100% professional, it's not a normal professional environment. So when you're having a bad day and you're in, I like to refer to it as the real world, you can certainly like get in your car and go for a drive and maybe go out for lunch by yourself and take your hour lunch and relax. And educators don't have that. So it's not that we're looking for, educators are looking for, and I'm not saying that that Richard had said this, because I felt like his question was sincere and like truly looking for clarification. But I know sometimes people run with that. So teachers aren't looking for like a safe space and we're not looking for like, the huggy space room. But it's just a matter of like everyone, and Richard pointed out as well, is like, you just need a place sometimes to go. And in the fake world of education, you don't get to just leave. And people, a lot of times I hear from people, why don't you just get in your car? I'm like, well, by the time I get to my car and then I unlock my car and I start my car, like I have to go back in that because I've got students who are relying on us. So I just want to throw that out there. I don't want this to be twisted that teachers need like, a crying space.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say as well, I don't even, and I've had these days, right? I don't need a room to go get like a massage. I mean, I would love a room to go get a massage, but that's not even what for me, space is not even a concrete thing. Personally for me, and I'm going to speak on behalf of other teachers that I know, space means a place to be by myself for a moment. And so what I think maybe some teachers are looking for is like that they could call the office and say like code 22. And that means you are on the verge of a breakdown. Could someone please cover your class for 5 minutes so you can go to the bathroom? Because things like going to the bathroom are very difficult to do more than once in an 8-hour period. And that sounds silly, but it is straight up.
It is.
Like there's no closing your door. That's, so just want to say that the space doesn't even need to be tangible or concrete. It can be just, I need a minute. Can someone please cover my children? Because I need to gather my thoughts. And at previous districts, we had like a group text chain and we could text a number, and somebody who was on their off period, and this kind of works better in middle and high school, could come in just for a second and you can excuse yourself. So just it.
And I want to, again, just in case anyone's out there listening tonight, I want to, like, we're talking about like, I want to put it in perspective too, like teachers are human and sometimes it has nothing to do with what's going on in the classroom. I remember last year, my mom in her infinite wisdom decided to contact the school to let me know that some emergency, very bad emergency had happened at home. And my response, of course, was to cry. And I had to leave. It had nothing to do with the students. And I said to my mom, like, the same emergency would have still been happening at noon when I was done with the day. But like, or something happens with your kid or something, like, it's not just about the students. It's like, because in the real world, and people who are just listening can't see that I'm doing air quotes, but in the real world, like, you get bad news when you're at work, and in the real world, you can just leave, and in the teaching world, you can't. So I don't want anyone to think that like our Newington teachers are sitting in their classrooms crying about the kids. It's just life that can get in the way. So
Ms. Weaver, then you, Amy.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor any of the points, but I just think it's really important. I want to first thank Mr. Branda for kind of bringing this up to the board level for us to kind of talk about it in this kind of setting, because I think that kind of was a good catalyst and a good check and reminder for us to say, like, we're not, when we talk about our priorities, this is one of the things. And I just want to commend, as was said before, Mr. Farisi, the entire staff, to those teachers who volunteered their time to take extra time out of their day. I know it looks like 6 meetings, like that's a lot out of your, you put 90 minutes, you put 2 hours, like, and we're already, spending 4 hours with you on policy. So like, you're taking extra time. But I think it's important too, to that it's, I was really impressed that it's to all staff too, right? So when we talk about this, one of our other priorities is looking at like, not just teachers, but paras with other staff. Like, it's not just that, because we do have so many aspects of our everyday heroes, right? So I think that's really just good to see. But I just think like it's really, really important. Like, I look at workplace culture, like most places have like places of refuge anyway. Like, that's like a standard in office buildings now. And that's mostly because you just go crazy looking at your computer screen all day. I can imagine like interacting with little humans all day. And, I hear from my friends who are all teachers and new teachers too, and just kind of like going into this profession, graduating into COVID and starting their teaching careers into this, getting doors slammed on them physically, and then like trying to navigate like their first job. That's incredibly difficult. So, not only for them, but like the seasoned professionals. So I'm just really appreciative of you being able to report on this effort, and I'm looking forward to what happens in the future. And I guess just one of my questions, you just touched on a little bit, the like access points of the EAP and stuff. So just curious, you said it's going well, like what are you looking at to measure that kind of stuff as the data?
So we
comes
do
in?
have, we got our first monthly report at the end of, it was March, right? So that was fantastic. We just implemented it and boom, there it was. And we have folks already using it. So I have numbers. I have no problem. I'll hook it up into the resources so you can see the data.
Awesome.
It's great.
Yeah, and just like
Really excited.
to follow, like we're so transparent about like all of our policy stuff
Yeah.
on the policy. So thank you for creating another website. I think it just like helps be so transparent. And I think it's one of the things that maybe will attract others to our district too. It's just, good culture attracts good people. And I think one of those things that we can do is it only betters how we look as a district. So it makes me really excited to see what we're doing. And so like on top of all the work you're doing, that you're being able to start this is really exciting. And just thank you to the educators for chiming in on that. It's always a helpful perspective for all of us. Now, this is teacher-led is super important. Like, I think that's the key that we should focus on.
Thank you. Ms. Parati?
Thank you. Yeah, Jess, you said a couple of things I was going to say too, like the website. Well, thank you to the whole committee and your work on this for running with it this last year. It's been super good progress in a short amount of time, but the website is a great resource for not only teachers in district, but hopefully potential teachers or staff looking to apply in Newington. It's a really good benefit that we have this to offer, and that the district cares about wellness and cares about each individual person and physical, mental, financial, everything that you can imagine. So I think that's great. I do work in the real world and it's true, it's a totally different environment and I'm the real world. Yeah, and I have resources like the EAP available to me. And I think like everybody needs it. Literally everybody should have it. Every employee should offer it. Or it should just be a thing that exists for everyone. So yeah, I just thank you for your work and thank you for the presentation.
All right, thank you.
Last thoughts? Yeah, so thank you all so much. I do want to share that actually, I appreciate the appreciation, but the true committee member and brainchild of it all is before us today. So I want to thank Dr. Brummett for the support and just the idea and concept of it, so that way we could move it forward and all her help and support with it. So,
Any comments from you?
No, full disclosure, I did get the idea from a workshop I attended with a superintendent group, but I brought it back to Steve. I said, Steve, you want to help me with this? And he's basically been doing all the work. So that's full disclosure. And it's been very well run, and I do appreciate all of his efforts.
All right. Thank you again, Mr. Parisi. All right, we are now going to move on to agenda item C5. This is for discussion and possible action, and it's review of education specifications for the renovations at John Wallace Middle School, Wings 3, 4, and 6. Now, this discussion is proposed for executive session due to security and safety issues. So I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Move into executive session.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. I'm going to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Michael Miranda.
Yes.
Danielle Drow.
Yes.
Dr. Bruce Fletcher.
Yes.
Beth Wagner.
Yes.
Richard Laveriere.
Yes.
Amy Parati.
Yes.
Jessica Weaver.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is so moved, and at this time, we're going to be pulling the curtain on this meeting and the Google Meet. We will be going into a private session, and we will return as soon as we are finished. So if you're in the public and you wish to stay in the public meeting and wait, you're welcome to do that. Oh, yes. I forgot to do that, and I had it written down. So I'm going to invite in Dr. Brummett, Lou Jacomowitz, and I'm going to invite in Gina Cavalli.
That looks like Anastasia is in the regular
Yes,
session.
she had texted me, said she'd be there waiting for us.
I'm here.
Craig, just so you know, we had a report from a citizen who was watching that they could see my PowerPoint that was only an executive session.
I could see the PowerPoint as well in executive session.
Anastasia is, I'm reading her lips. She saw it as
Oh,
well.
can you hear me?
Was that other meeting posted again like it was last time? The last time the executive session got accidentally posted somewhere.
It was part of the posting for the regular meeting, but no link was sent out publicly.
All right.
Can you guys hear me?
You left the regular session and went into the executive.
Correct.
Session.
Yes.
Well, you were still in.
Well, I have one thing to say about this. Going forward, we need to get clarification. I believe, what's that?
I thought my list of things to talk about. How do I get out of here? Oh.
We're in regular session.
Okay, I didn't know if we were officially in.
Yes, we are
No one else
officially in.
Hasn't come back into the room yet, I
All right.
don't think.
So we will, I'm going to be moving that we have everything in person, no more hybrid meetings.
Yeah, it sounded like Kate, the rep, they said that.
CABE informed us that it is no longer a requirement, and we're about the only district in the state that is still doing it.
Unfortunately, that was a recommendation we got from our legal counsel. I'm
Yeah. That's for everything.
for both,
In person.
because I agree that it's just too wonky and it doesn't,
Okay.
it is.
You have to hit Google
All right.
first. Google Meet.
Everybody back in the room? Are we back online?
We're not.
Can I continue from there? Probably
Do the
not.
code.
Okay.
Conference number followed by pound or hash
This is
key.
a, right?
Followed by pounding the hash key or followed by the pound and the hash key?
Hash key.
Hash key.
0221 hashtag.
Please hold while I try to connect you.
And now back in the regular session here. There you go.
And that, oh, that was a Helen.
Helen Nelson just came a knocking.
Now I got a managed recording.
Can you hear me?
Call is being recorded.
Yes, we can, Anastasia.
Oh, I could see the PowerPoint as well. That's what I was telling you.
All right. Calling this meeting back to order. Okay, we've completed our discussion in executive session. I hate hearing myself.
I just
Yep,
turned
that's-
off the volume.
At this time, we'll ask for somebody to read this motion.
Move the Newington Board of Education approve the education specifications for the John Wallace Middle School renovation projects wings 3, 4, and 5.
3,
Second.
4, and 6.
3, 4, and 6. We're not
It's
doing.
not even that many numbers.
Already good.
Okay, good.
Motion has been made and seconded. Okay, we can't really discuss a lot of this stuff in open. So at this time, I'm going to ask for the clerk to call our roll.
Michael Brianda,
Yes.
Danielle Droz.
Yes.
Dr. Bruce Fletcher,
Yes.
Beth Mankingham Wagner,
Yes.
Richard Laveriere,
He's not in the meeting.
Amy Parati,
Yes.
Jessica Wheeler,
Yes.
Anastasia Yap.
Yes.
The motion passed unanimously.
Thank you all very much for your participation. I'm glad to see this moving forward. We will bring some updates to the public as soon as we have any available. At this time, we're going to move to agenda item D, which is public participation on any matter related to board responsibilities. You can, well, there's nobody here in person. You can call in at 860-665-8659. Or if you are in our Google Meet, raise your hand, or the little symbol on the bottom of the screen, there's a hand. Just click on it and I will call on you. We limit your participation to 3 minutes. We ask that you state your name and the address, your address. And we'll wait a few moments to see if there are any participants. We actually don't have any members of the public in the room. Google Meet. Okay, I am going to move us on to item E, which is any final remarks by board members if you wish to make them. It's not mandatory, but you may. Go ahead, Ms. Parati.
Just quickly, if anyone listens back to this, there was a art show today, first time since COVID, which was really fun to get together. There's lots of beautiful artwork. It's available the next 2 days at the Senior Disabled Center. Suggest you check it out till 8 p.m. It was fantastic. I had two very lovely artists showcased there. Thank you.
All right, Anastasia Yap.
Hi, yes, and Dr. Brummett can piggyback off this. I'm excited to say that we have added someone hourly, well, kind of per diem, to help with grant writing for NPS. At this time, she's not working on any grants, but she has helped NPS school system with, I think, 2 grants last week. Dr. Brummett, you can elaborate on essentially having a per diem, I guess I would say, or hourly grant writer added, which is, definitely beneficial to our school system.
Just to clarify, her name is Sonia Richmond. She's been used by the town, and Ms. Yap mentioned her as well in her communication with her. I will say she was quite helpful. We rewrote and revised the SEL counselor grant and resubmitted it last week. Fingers crossed. We should hear by mid-May, but Sonia was, and she's even willing to work on the weekends. And it is based on just hourly. What she does is by the hour at this time. We haven't created a contract or a ongoing relationship yet, but we are monitoring other grants for possible application. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else in the room care to make any final remarks? There is one I'm listening for.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? You may stay. I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your participation.